You're here, cannot wait to dive into Visibility Vixen episode 12.
How on earth are women going to bring back the feminine, bring balance back into this world, help our children grow up into being full-fledged, whole people, when we are reminded 13 times a year for a couple of days in a row that we are a shameful being?
Welcome to the Visibility Vixen podcast, where we create space to grow our brand with intention and clarity, one episode at a time. Join us as we explore the many aspects of entrepreneurship, start loving the journey instead of the destination, and begin building a legacy that lasts. Here's your host, Michelle Lewis.
I am here with the wonderful Stasha Washburn. Welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
I'm so glad that you're here. This is going to be a really exciting episode because it's one that I've never heard before. I don't think anyone's done before. We're going to be talking all about our period and our business. So I'm so excited about that, Stasha. But first, I'm going to give people a little bit of your bio so they can know a little bit more about who you are. Stasha's life mission is to end the taboo of menstruation. This causes serious damage to not just our health as women, but our society as a whole. Stasha is showing each woman the power in her cycle, how to use it as a diagnostic tool, and the ultimate scheduling app. Her mission is not only to help you have a happy period, it's also to empower every woman to have real freedom. This is so exciting, Stasha. Would you mind diving into a little bit more about what it is that you do?
Yeah, totally. It kind of even came about a little bit as an accident. So I had really, really bad periods, like really bad periods. I passed out in public because the pain was just so much. And in my healing journey that I went through, dealing with that and some adrenal dysfunction and some hypothyroid, because once one thing goes, they all kind of tumble down.
Yep.
I started building a business, and I went through this period of just burnout from attempting to build my business and heal at the same time. So I actually, in my research on hormonal balance and working with clients, because my clients were women with hormonal balance issues, I started coming upon studies that said, you know, your estrogen as it rises and falls, so does your verbal skills. So your verbal skills can peak and fall, and your spatial skills and your ability to connect or your ability to vision and your ability to solve problems and all of these different things. So I started realizing that if I'm charting out my period, because that's part of the healing process, that I knew where I was in my cycle. And if I knew where I was in my cycle, that meant I could actually start just doing the things in my business that I needed to do with that in mind, going, okay, well, why wouldn't I just write my copy when my verbal skills were at my peak? So I started doing this, and it slowly made so much more space in my business and in my schedule because I was doing things when I was good at them instead of wrestling and trying to do crap when I wasn't good at it and forcing myself to work harder and pushing and being like, no, you have to work all the time. So it really just made all this space. And that's when I started going with my clients, who most of them happen to be women with businesses or running nonprofits or something. And I just started telling them and sharing with them. And all of a sudden, our work together really went from being all about the balancing their hormones to balancing their hormones and their business.
I think that it's absolutely brilliant. I remember the first time that I came across your profile and I went, oh my gosh, this is so needed and this is genius. So for those of us out there that have no idea, we're totally new to this concept, would you mind doing just a quick breakdown of the 4, phases in your cycle and what that kind of corresponds to for your business?
Totally. So, let's start with the period, because that seems like, we know what day 1 is. It's the first day of the bleed. Mm-hmm. So it's a good place to start. The thing is that during our menstrual cycle, the synapses between our left and our right hemisphere are firing on all cylinders. So you're really creatively and logically connected at your peak. So it's a really good time because when you're in balance, especially, you can really be very objective even of yourself. So it's a beautiful time to step back and reconnect with your life vision and look at what you're doing in your business or even in your life and go, what is serving this higher purpose? It's my business and my life vision statement, and what isn't. And you can be very objective because those two sides of the brain are really on fire and chatting with each other. So you can see this as a much bigger picture. And then you move into your follicular phase, which is kind of like the springtime. You start to feel re-energized. You're looking into more light foods generally. We kind of instinctually do that where we're like, oh, I feel like a salad today. And it's because we're coming into this springtime feeling. And this is a really good time that your energy is lifting. So it's a really good time to go do networking events. It's a really good time to start working on writing out that vision statement and writing out the things in your business that you need to do around that. So start doing the draft, start coming up with the ideas, start pulling, brilliant things that you said during your period about your vision statement into your marketing. And then you move into ovulation, which is full-fledged. It's like your summer. It's the full moon. It's all that wild goddess running with wolves energy. And that's when you're on fire. And statistically, women in tipped positions make the most money during this phase of their cycle. So if you're in a business with sales calls, light it up, baby. It's the perfect time to do any kind of pitching, of sales, of presentations, those kinds of things. It's really even as an introvert, and I am probably one of the biggest introverts on the planet, it's that time when I even feel like, okay, let's go do something today, like nice and big, go network, be bold. And then you come into your little phase, which is the fall. You're going into, it's like this phase that's right before and during PMS. So it's that time where we all start to feel our energy come down. And that's okay, because instinctually we kind of want to start nesting during this phase. It's when you start to notice that your house is a disaster or something's going wrong, and you really start to to make things better, to do what you need to do to de-stress and relax and help make your life a much easier place. And that's kind of that nesting instinct. So it's a great time to really start looking around you and not thinking about why or how to fix it, but just going, what is going wrong? What can I do better? Where can we improve? And then set yourself up for the next month. That nesting phase, we really do want to remake the bed, do some batch cooking, make a giant pot of stew or rice and beans or whatever. So it's like, great, do that. Embrace that. Like, let yourself off the hook a little bit business-wise and set yourself up for a super happy and productive month that's coming.
That's so interesting because I've never considered planning my month, especially business-wise, around my cycle. So it's just such a revolutionary concept that seems so obvious. So I'm so glad that you are enlightening women to understand that these different phases mean that you have power in these different aspects. So if I'm feeling, for example, really frustrated in my content creation, it's not because it's not flowing, it's because I'm maybe not in that area of my cycle yet.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's huge. So when you made that transition in your career and you started helping women with this kind of aspect, what changes did you see in their lives and their business?
I think most overwhelmingly, I saw the joy come back. There was a sense of freedom because they just stopped feeling, and I stopped feeling like I was not doing enough. And I started really respecting myself, my boundaries, my cycle, my body, and that joy just of living. And because you go back every month during that menstrual phase and really reconnect with your life vision. And every month you do it. So every month you get more and more and more into alignment and clear, and you really start getting rid of the crap that is just filling in the spaces. And then you suddenly have like all of this room in your life, and it's incredible.
Wow. It's interesting because I had a conversation with my husband a couple days ago, which I talked about on last week's podcast. And he was saying, I really think that you need to cut down your hours. You're such a high achiever, but you're spending way too much time in front of the computer, and it's causing you to get a little bit out of balance. And what you're describing here and what you're saying that women are saying with that freedom, it's like, well, if you know where your strengths are and when during the month, you're not going to have to work quite as hard. And I think that that is so exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's awesome. In fact, one of the women that did the last round of my Your Business, Your Flow program, her comment was, I think every teenage girl should be required to do this. What happier lives we could be leading from the start.
Oh, yes. I can't even imagine because there's such a taboo around talking about this. And we feel like, okay, I just have to push through and, I guess I have to go to this event, even though I'm heavily bleeding and crying and feeling horrible. I just have to push through and not talk about it with anybody,
Right, yeah. And then you go to the event and you're miserable. And honestly, you might have just made things worse than had you just not shown up.
Yes. People are going, what is wrong with her?
Yeah, they're like, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? Do you need to go home? And then everyone remembers you as that weird sick girl.
Totally.
Instead of just going home and spending the night in a bathtub and relaxing in the first place.
Yeah, we might be a little more inspirational that night on Instagram than we'd be at a networking event. So I totally hear you.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
And, it's not like you don't go to important events. Like, I did an interview for well.org for their channel, their video. And it was day 2 of my menstrual cycle. Like, believe me, it wasn't, I didn't want to be on camera with being interviewed by the creator of well.org on day 2 of my cycle. But you don't say no to that opportunity.
Right.
So you do it.
Of course.
But I'll be honest, the 3 days before that, I did nothing but self-care.
Yeah. Well, that's so important. So smart as well. That's awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about your program, Your Business, Your Flow. I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, so it was really developed out of what I was doing one-on-one with people. But as I said, my mission is to end the taboo around menstruation, right? So when I was actually in my menstrual phase and I was going, that's my mission, how I was working one-on-one, going to end the taboo. Like, I would have to clone myself 100 times to do that. So I kind of just decided at that moment that I needed to do something else, and I started distilling the one-on-one work and the work that I've done with myself and my own journey into a program that I could teach as a group. So at the moment for the group, we have a chat and we still have a one-on-one call. So we talk about specifically what each woman is going through so that we can make sure that the program going forward is really aligned with each individual woman. But then yeah, it's a group program. We go through the very first class is how to figure out where you are in your cycle, how to pay attention, what you need to know, the signs that you need to know, how to use it as a diagnostic tool to see how you are doing hormonally, how your balance is. So the first round is really just a setup. And then we go through each phase and we talk about how you can support each phase through your 6 senses. So it's very sensual. We talk about food and we talk about nourishment and touch and taste and feel and sound and sight. And of course, that spiritual phase. So we talk about, as a long-term Tai Chi and Qigong practitioner, we learn meditations that really support where we are in each phase of the cycle. And then we talk about how it applies to our business. So we go into really how to support each phase of the cycle. And then we go into, now, how do we use this for our business? And we get down into the nitty-gritty of using it for our businesses.
How awesome.
And we just kind of go through each of the 4 phases. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet that there's so many women that even in the first part of your course are like, I have no idea to figure out where I am in my cycle. I have no idea how to put that into my business. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I mean, it's one or the other. It's like either a woman who has gone through a very similar struggle as I have, and so she really knows a lot. And it's like, I really don't know what you can show me, but I don't feel good yet, so I'm going to keep going until I learn something new. Or if somebody's like, I have no idea at all, start at zero.
Wow, that's amazing. That really it really blows my mind. This is actually the first podcast that I've done where I'm just like, wow, it's just such a revolutionary concept. So I really love that. So let's talk a little bit more about you, my dear. I love finding out people's big why. So the huge reason that they're moving forward in their business to actually change the world. So you touched on this a little, but would you mind going a little deeper into your big why?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Personally, when I first started getting my period in high school, I was really bad right out of the gate. And I couldn't really lie to people about what was going on. When you're in high school and you get your period, you might tell your friends. Mm-hmm. But most of us went through oh God, I have to go hide this. How am I going to lie about this? How am I going to make it so no one knows what's going on? I have very supportive parents, thank God, but other than that, I didn't tell anybody. Mm-hmm. So, but I couldn't lie because I kept passing out. Oh. I would have such bad cramps that I would turn white and break out in a sweat, and I would just fall down. Wow. So I couldn't really lie about it, and that having to over and over and over again through my teens and my 20s and even into the beginning of my 30s, go into this what is wrong with you? And go, well, I got my period. And just have to brace myself for the awkward conversation that was about to come. Awesome. I didn't choose this. I don't want to have to go home right now because I'm in such pain that I just had to throw up in the bathroom. I don't find puking the great, but puking for 3 days really is the worst part for me. And I just was I wouldn't choose this. It's not like this is fun. Why are you making me feel bad about it?
Well, and no one can relate to that. I totally hear you. When I was in high school, I actually had, whatchamacallit? My goodness, I've totally even forgotten what it was. It's when the lining grows on itself.
Endometriosis.
Yes, thank you so much. I had endometriosis really, really bad, and fortunately I was able to heal it naturally later. But then you have all these girlfriends in high school that have what I like to call fairy periods, where they barely bleed, and it's for 2 or 3 days, so they have absolutely no understanding of why you're having it so bad. Mm-hmm. But yes, continue.
It sucks. It really sucks. And I know I'm not alone, obviously. Mm-hmm. And even for the girls that did have really super light periods, it's still, when you become sexually active, there's men out there that just make you feel so shameful, won't even hang out with you because you're Shark Week. And that's gross. And it just turns into this 30 times a year. Basically, a woman goes through her period. So, that's 3, 4, 5, maybe 7 days a month, 13 times a year, so even more than once a month, that you're spending your time like clockwork feeling ashamed of your body. Mm-hmm. How on earth are women going to bring back the feminine, bring balance back into this world, help our children grow up into being full-fledged, whole people, when we are reminded 13 times a year for a couple of days in a row that we are a shameful being?
I think that's an excellent, excellent, excellent point. There's no education, there's no awareness, and even though over half the population has these same days every month, it's still taboo.
Yeah.
I think that's
amazing.
That's
exactly it. And when we do have the conversation, it has to be in the negative. You have to be bitching about how bad it is. You can't celebrate. You can't be positive. You have to be talking about it as it's this negative. The only way to be one of the cool kids is to talk poorly about your own body and your own cycle. And we try to separate it as if it's ant flow, as if it's a different entity and not our own body, our own blood, our own hormones coursing through our entire body, we try to separate ourselves from it, and then we try to put it down. And instead, that conversation needs to change to being powerful, which is really why I just, I had to stop doing, well, not stop, but I just had to stop doing solely one-on-one work and start talking to women. I mean, I targeted business owners and entrepreneurs and CEOs and people, anyone who can basically make their own schedule, which includes homeschooling parents, by the way. They're awesome, and I love those ladies. But, anyone that can do that, because they can matriculate the information to their employees, to their clients, to their children. So it's like for each one single person in my program, I know that I'm reaching 5 at least, because they're friends, they're sisters, they're employees, their clients, whoever. I know I'm reaching at least 5 people within the course of the program for each person in my program. So I really wanted it to be a bigger impact for the world and change that conversation from one that if you can have the conversation at all, it must be in a negative connotation, to really teaching women how powerful and awesome that their period actually is and can be, and change that conversation for everyone around the world.
I totally agree. I actually, in addition to being a visibility expert, I got my doctorate in natural plant-based healing. So that really saved me from multiple organ failure and being on the verge of cancer and all these other different things. But what was such a powerful thing in that education was learning about the body's detox channels and knowing that as women, we have an extra one that men don't have. So each month we get to actually release, and it's not just whatever is physically not in harmony with our body, but it can be emotional hangups, past traumas, past blockages. We have this amazing ability to release that every single month. And I think that that's just, there's not a lot of awareness around that. So that is so powerful that you're doing that. Thank you so much for taking this on and spreading that message of femininity. That is so powerful. I'm so excited for you.
Well, I know it's something that can keep me supercharged for the rest of my life, because my lifespan's not going to change the conversation worldwide. So I know it's something that I can really dedicate my life to and always have more work to do. And I am super stoked for the adventure, because it's just getting better and better out there.
Absolutely. Well, let's ask just a couple more questions before we wrap this up. I would love to know, what is your favorite daily habit?
My favorite daily habit is probably my cup of tea in the morning. But I would say that my favorite daily habit that actually makes the most impact is my daily meditation in the morning.
What is the number one piece of encouragement you'd like to give a ladypreneur right now who's feeling invisible?
If you are in a place where you know what your life vision, that big vision goal is for you, then you are already through the hard part of the battle. You just keep going and fail and fail and fail and fail and fail and fail, but just keep going. And if you aren't at that stage yet, keep exploring it and keep doing things. Go to events, go to art shows, go to rock and roll, go to anywhere, go to the park, go do stuff, go out into nature, go experience life, because you're going to find this thing that really pisses you off or this thing that really lights you up or whatever it is. And when you find that thing, just go out there and start to fail epically, gloriously, boldly, and bravely.
I am in agreement with that, my dear. You have to have a little bit of flail before you can really start finding your jam. So
yeah, you do. You have to suck really bad, but you have to do it.
Yeah, you do. Absolutely. So for the women out here who are like, oh my gosh, I think I need more of Stasha in my life and I need to end the taboo of menstruation and want to start figuring out how to get aligned with my flow and my business, where can they find you?
Okay, so my favorite place to send women is the Facebook group. It's a big group, and we tap into our cycle, and we talk about self-care and taboos, and we brag about how awesome we are, and it's amazing. And come and hang out with us and get your amazing groove on. Otherwise, go check out theperiodcoach.com.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where my blog is and my programs are, and my newsletter sign up is there, so you can get in on whatever awesome stuff is happening there.
Great. I will put those links below, ladies. And I also wanted to let you know that if you head over to ladypreneurlegacy.com/podcast, you will see Stasha's recording, and you'll also see the free graphic that she's giving us, which is called A Month in Menstruation. So everything she was talking about in the beginning about what phase you're in and what that means and all of that, that's all in this one beautiful graphic. So you can find that, and I will put that link below. But in the meantime, Stasha, thank you so much. Thanks for coming on here. Thanks for giving us the encouragement that we need as women in our business. We really, really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. Go get them, ladypreneurs.
Thanks for listening in today to the Visibility Vixen podcast. Subscribe now and share with a fellow Vixen who wants to start building their visibility. For more fire in your life and brand, visit visibilityvixen.com.